You're good to go whenever you're ready to start.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. I would like to call this Recreation Committee meeting to order on today, October 21st, 2024. If we could just take a moment, have a brief moment of silence. Amen. All right, thank you. Moving on, do I have an approval for the September 16th, 2024 minutes?
Move for approval.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Oops. Do we need to start over, Brittany?
No, you're good. It's
Okay.
all streaming. Yes.
Okay. All right. Moving on, public participation. Do we have anyone signed up to speak?
Wanda, do you know if anyone has signed up to speak today?
Anyone?
Sorry, no one, I'm having trouble unmuting. No one has signed up.
Okay. All right. Well, moving right along. In old business, bond referendum updates. Who would like to take that? Mr. Mayor or Mr. Kronsberg?
Yeah, I can just kind of give, and Jason, feel free to jump in here. The RFP for the design of W.L. Stevens and Johns Island Rec Center. Has that, Jason, can you give the status of that? I mean, I believe it's ready to go out.
It's ready to go. So we've shared everything with budget and finance, and everything is drafted, documented, ready to go be advertised in the Post and Courier. Then we would schedule with the selection committee to coordinate all meetings required for that RFQ process.
So what are we waiting on in terms of submitting or sending it out?
I think Wednesday would be the deadline for the Post and Courier. That would be our next deadline.
All right, so it could go out within the next week.
Yes.
Okay. And just for the committee's understanding, the idea is to get one design build team to do both of those facilities, and we are loosely modeling it off of the Daniel Island Rec Center in terms of general scope. And I think there'll be real efficiencies to do it together. Is the logic behind combining them, which would, of course, hopefully have some funds potentially left over for other projects. And then with regards to the other items that were on the bond referendum, we're working through those, but I would say that it'll be important, I think, to get a range of the idea of what this is looking like and how it relays to what was defined financially on the bond, to have a base to start from.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. All right. Moving on. 4B Bayview Soccer Complex parking and entrance. This was put on by myself, and I would request maybe that this committee, I'd like to see it on traffic and transportation too. I don't know, obviously I can speak to this facility because it's in my district, so I don't know if others have problems in other areas, but clearly we're growing. Recreation, the programming is growing. Parking is an issue out there, but not just parking, the entering, the coming and the going out of that complex. So I'm hopeful, which we can't just deal with as a city as it comes out onto an SCDOT road. So I hope this committee will support. I'm going to chat with our, other local representatives, but I do think that we need to consider something to help alleviate the flow there. A crosswalk was requested. I know no one's from TNT, but again, I think it's kind of twofold. A crosswalk was requested. SCDOT said that the numbers just weren't there. But as you're leaving every Saturday, if you're there in the morning or you're there in the afternoon, I mean, it's extremely dangerous coming out of there. We're fortunate because we have sort of a courtesy process on James Island. So, but I do think that we need to approach it from another, perspective, because the impact is really from recreation and from the youth soccer club. So if we can just try to come up even with a short-term solution, I mean, I know I've spoken with CPD, some other short-term options, but I think if I have this committee's support and, the director and the mayor, if we can maybe try to come up with some solutions there, I think it would make it, not only a lot safer, but just everybody coming and going more efficiently. So that's why
I'm glad to work with you on that and TNT and bring them in and see what we can do to help.
Yeah, so I'll go there next. So I apologize. That one was just for over here in District 12. So I'll move on. 4C, recreation programming and community parks. I know that I've brought this up before, and I have had other council members, let me know of similar situations. And I don't know if Miss Yarborough is on or someone from recreation. I mean, what I'm being sort of asked, or what I hear from other council members, other areas, and then obviously locally here on James Island, is we're kind of running all over the plate. You live on this side of the island and you're going over here. And I know that lights and parking these are all the issues and the concerns, but what I'm hearing is I think we have a setup in our middle school programming and even in some of our younger ages where they do it by school. So I just don't know if it's ever been a conversation where moving forward, we might have another way of sort of aligning the children who register to areas, and then they can utilize parks that are closer. I mean, I think a good example here on James Island is, Riverland Terrace and James Island Rec Center or Bayview, right? Okay, and pretty, the traffic, as we know, is pretty bad everywhere. But I hear the same, when you live in, near Sumar Street and then you go to Bees Island Recreation Complex. So those types of things. So I don't know if that's ever been a considered, moving forward in some of our programming or how we could do that. But, that's what this committee is here for. And I don't know if you're hearing that from your constituents, other members on this body, but that's what I'm hearing. So any suggestions or anything we can do to help? You're on mute, Lori. Sorry.
There you go. Sorry. I'll try to give you a couple thoughts. Councilmember Parker, we do have a middle school program that we run some sports out of that allows those kids that are going to middle school and probably on to a high school to play some sports together and sign up within their schools. I will say that once you get to that 12, 13-year-old age group, kids tend to hone in on the sports that they're really good at or have a big interest in. And so the numbers start to dwindle. So it helps us to put those kids together in their schools. That's a big socialization kind of thing at that age. Children are younger, 5, 6, 7, 8. Parents are trying to run around everywhere. And so we have always allowed parents to kind of choose where their younger kids were going to be. So there'd be ease of transportation, ease of carpooling, brothers and sisters, cousins, kids on the same street. But the long and short of it is this: we have X number of facilities. In your example on James Island Rec Center obviously is a cluster area. Over in Riverland Terrace, there's no supporting facilities with lights or gym or anything like that to pick up those kids so that they would have an adequate place to do the same programming. And then sometimes when we have groups that collect together, you will see folks say that we've got teams stacked or some of the teams look a little loaded. So what we've tried to do in the past and what we've listened to with our parents is 5 to 8-year-olds, we kind of look at request. 9 and up, 9, 10, 11, 12, we do those by having combines and trying to place players of like abilities to equal out the teams. And then those middle school teams are actually played in January and February before the JV seasons start. So those kids could try out for JV as well. or they could come play rec with us in the spring. So it's kind of been a hodgepodge of how we've tried to do things to make sure we have programs accessible for everyone. But it's very difficult with the facilities that we have. I don't have anything on Johns Island that I can do there. On Daniel Island, we finally have lights on ball fields, and we finally have a gym that's all of ours to program. So it's made it a lot better. Inner West Ashley, I don't have that gym. Inner West Ashley, I don't have those lighted fields. Those are in outer West Ashley because the city has done a great job in the last 15 years of acquiring land and building those newer parks in outer West Ashley to handle that growth. But we need to go back into inner West Ashley and fill that. So those are just some of the challenges we have. The other thing in Charleston that's very strange is we have a lot of private schools. And so kids don't always go to school in the area they live in. And so you've got requests that would come in that might make teams a little more stacked. But I understand what parents are saying. I do. We try to stagger times. We try to stagger seasons. It's just really hard to get around. But I take your thoughts and your comments, and we can always look to see what can we do better. It's great to know that the middle school program is something that families are enjoying and that are working for those middle school age kids. 5- and 6-year-old kids tend to play every sport we have offered because parents want them to try everything. And so those programs in that 5- to 8-year-old age group is a lot bigger than that 12- and 13-year-old age group. So I don't know if I answered any questions for you, but I kind of gave you, my view from where we are. There's a lot of ways to do things, and Charleston is just so unique till we should always tinker with how we can do it better.
Yeah, I agree. No, and thank you for saying that. I don't think obviously there wasn't, I know there wasn't going to be, there's no easy solution. I mean, we are limited on fields, location, all of that. So I appreciate that. I just see that middle school model, that seems to be what people are approaching me a lot with is I think a good example is tennis. We see the tennis teams, they form within these schools. And I think that at least I've felt, again, I don't know how others in their districts feel, but they like that connectivity, just like they're seeing in middle school. They like that. Also, I mean, I've been a strong supporter and proponent of just having other fields, the community parks, things like that being utilized. I know there aren't lights, but we do have, before the time change, like spring and early fall, we are fortunate enough to have some extended night times. Winter, certainly, I mean, we're out,
Yes.
literally lights are out by 5, but we do have some extended time sometimes in the fall and the spring. So Councilmember McBride, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I know a lot of folks come from Johns Island over to James, and it seems like utilizing Medway or some of our smaller community parks, whether it's just for, I mean, understandably, games need to be played in a facility where there are recreation staff and things like that. But practices, if we can help, that commute, or there are fields that we could utilize, kind of coming off of John's. If that's what I don't want to speak for Johns Island though either, Councilmember McBride, but I know I hear some of this at the James Island fields, So
Yeah.
That's why I'm putting it out there. Lori, I know you guys are all doing a great job. We love it. I mean, we live on those fields, so we appreciate everything that you do. I just, as Charleston's growing, these are the questions that I keep hearing. And I just think that we need to kind of find ways to pivot and help alleviate, we probably aren't going to fix the traffic overnight, but if we can start utilizing some of these already beautiful fields or pinpointing where we can really focus our energy on that a section of town could utilize, then I think we would be really helping the community.
Sure. Well, that inner West Ashley loop is a big one. Right now, primarily St. Andrews Parks and Playgrounds has got land in that. We've got some small neighborhood parks. They don't have the parking to accommodate more than 10 vehicles. They don't have lights. But that's the answer to the equation, is how can we build or partner to have facilities in inner West Ashley so that we're not taking folks all the way through, all of West Ashley to get to our newer facilities out in outer West Ashley. And at your urging, we have really gone back and looked at our neighborhood parks to say, what can we spread to our neighborhood parks to give some relief and give teams more practices and more places to go. And I think it's been better this season. Some of the chatter I've heard when I'm out is that teams are getting a little more access for practices. The only other thought I have, and it's not one that I even want to bring up because it kind of goes against everything to me that the city has always been about, is that we had maybe start looking at limiting the number of children that can register. And that's not what I want to do, but that's a way to ensure that we have enough fields. We take every child that comes in through the registration period, and then we figure out the answer of how we're going to put them all in facilities. That's how we do our scheduling and everything else. You know, if I had a set number, then that was closer to the number of facilities and gyms and stuff like that we had, it would be a little bit easier formula. But that's not what I want to do, because I want to give all children a chance to participate. But that is what some places do, Councilmember Parker.
Yeah, understood. And I think that goes against, I mean,
Me too.
I'm there with you. I
Yeah.
just want to get the kids on the field. So, Councilmember Waring?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to have we identified some sites, Jason and Lori, that maybe the school district has that we can joint venture on. And one example I would bring up, Council Lady Parker, is, old Gresham Mega High School. You and I were there. They got a nice gym over there. We've talked about that before, but they got about 10 or 11 acres that is just open field over there. I mean, I think that's a good opportunity for recreation for somebody right there. They certainly underutilize it. Maybe we should come up with an idea on that. That's all I'm saying, because 10, 11 acres, maybe even larger than that. But they used to have a football stadium over there, just for younger folk on the line. That used to be an African-American high school during the days of separate but equal. And of course, that high school stadium is now gone, and they all play football together over there at James Island High. So I know what you're talking about, Councilman Parker, because my 10-year-old grandson lives on James Island. He plays Pee Wee football, and his football team has kids from Johns Island and James Island on it, and they play on James Island's high school football field, because that makes them feel like big boys. They 10-year-olds out there on the high school football team, which is a pretty field and stadium. But you're right, we need some other space out there, and I'm just brainstorming, thinking about, just like we did on Johns Island the other day, and found some space out there that the county has that we may be able to use. Maybe we can do something with Gresham Mega, which is on the other side, as they say, the other side of the island.
Right. Yeah, no, thank you. And I mean, we have beautiful field space. This is what I've kind of been harping on, unfortunately, for this committee, but we have some great fields. Some of them need maintenance. Some, yes, of course, need lights, but that poses its own issue. Bathrooms, obviously, but I think you nailed it too with the football program. I've seen that program progress from a recreation to now the high school sort of has taken this to a really, really wonderful program. And I think what I hear is everybody loves that, right? Because these kids sort of come up in this program together, and they really love it. So I've sort of seen it modeled with the football and the tennis, and I'm just wondering if maybe there's something. And, there's no perfect answer. I know, Lori, and I don't expect us to figure that out today. I'm just sort of throwing it out there for conversation, because it does come up quite a bit. And
Sure.
Especially with the folks coming from Johns and, making that Maybank to Harborview, it's tough. And if we can, I do think that we have some great parks over there in Medway and Ferguson and all of those.
And I will say that I love connecting with our schools. They're not always the easiest folks to partner with. Individually, schools are. Coach McCoy over at James Island Charter High School, he has been a breath of fresh air to us. I mean, he wants 8, 9, 10-year-old kids practicing on the same field that his high school kids play on, because he doesn't want to lose those kids to another high school. He wants them to go to his high school, and it's certainly paid off when we have that kind of cooperation at West Ashley and at Burke and, at some of our other schools. it really does energize our students, you know, that way. It does require some work from the schools, and the schools that put that work in, you usually see at their high school sport level, they have success.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's a model that we can, that we can see in other sports. But anyway, that was really it. Just, making sure that we keep those community parks on our radar, and obviously engage the communities and make sure, because I think we're seeing it. We're seeing it come alive everywhere. But
Sure.
all right. Well, thank you all. Thank you for letting me have a minute on that. All right. Moving on to new business. Recreation Commission update. I think this was also submitted by me, but Lori, I think this was really just asking, in my time on the committee, we've never really had anyone from the commission come and maybe share with us their thought, just whatever they've been discussing. And do you think we could do that? That was could we put that on the next meeting?
I do think we could. Right now, we're in a little bit of limbo. We've had a number of people leave that commission, the Citizen Commission. They don't have a lot of meat on the bone to gnaw, because they don't really control money, and they have a lot of their own individual ideas. I submitted to Mayor Cogswell and City Hall a list of 10 names that had come in from new applications. Of those 10, every area geographically is represented except for Daniel Island. So we have asked through our Daniel Island rec programs, we've tried to advertise that we'd like some folks to volunteer from their area as well. I think it's important to have equal representation. But I hope to have a quorum again back on that committee and that group meeting. But we had some pickleball enthusiasts that kind of took over the commission, and it kind of left a sour taste in some other folks' mouth. And then the pickleball people have moved on. So we've had a shortage of members, but I did submit that 2 weeks ago to the clerk's office for the mayor's review. So hopefully that'll be something city council will have coming to it quickly.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I don't see any hands. All right. Now for the best part, right? Presentation by the Low Country Land Trust. I'm not sure who we have. Maybe Councilmember McBride, if you want to take it from here.
Yes, thanks, Chairwoman Parker. I'd invited Samantha Siegel, and where's your counterpart? There he is, David Ray from Low Country Land Trust. Tying right into what you're saying, Councilwoman Parker's. I'm excited about this, and I'm excited about what they've done. And as we know, on the capital projects committee, we've been briefed a little bit on the renovations to the Angel Oak Park, and it's a city Low Country Land Trust partnership, which is awesome. I'd love to see more of that type of partnership. If the city can't quite get over the hurdle on its own, partnering with other private organizations is really, in this case, definitely showing some great fruit. So, but to your point, Councilman Parker, about James Island, Johns Island, everywhere where there's not infrastructure, of course, is not just roads, it's parks, it's even, public water access, which is one of the main reasons I invited them to come on. The more we have that in local areas, and I'm focused on Johns Island, of course, that it reduces traffic, because people don't have to drive as far to get to James Island, to West Ashley or whatever, or vice versa. So that's why I've been really banging this drum hard, is to try to get more recreation space, more park space. And these guys, Low Country Land Trust, have just been phenomenal. I'm glad I've met them early on, after before I got elected. And so I invited them to come on because Johns Island, in addition to not enough parks, also, I think it's the second or third largest island on the East Coast, if I'm not mistaken. Fourth largest on the whole East Coast. Has only, including Wadmalaw, only 2 public water access points. Cherry Point boat landing way on the far end of Wadmalaw, and Limehouse just on the northern tip of Johns Island, and that's it. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to invite Mr. Ray and Ms. Siegel on, is to talk about what they're doing to add a new public water access point right in the middle of the city county area of Johns Island. So again, thank you guys for coming on, and thank you for all that you guys have been doing. You guys take it away.
Thank Thank you, Councilman McBride, and appreciate the invitation. Thank you all for having us here today. I'm David Ray. I'm the Chief Conservation Officer for Low Country Land Trust. You will be hearing from my colleague Samantha Siegel, who heads up our Angel Oak project. And I also want to mention that our Chief Advancement Officer, Catherine McCullough, is also on the call. So real quick, Low Country Land Trust, we were founded in 1986. You see there a view of the very first project. It's called Algae Island. It's in the Stono River over near West Ashley. We actually still own that property. And over those 38 years, we have protected over 163,000 acres throughout the coastal plain of South Carolina. We have over 550 properties that we have to go out and visit each year to make sure that the protections that we put in place, which are in perpetuity, are still in place. And so we have a very active stewardship program as well. And we're based right here in Charleston. Our mission, as you see, is to protect land and water forever. Next slide, please.
Sorry.
No problem. All right. So I'm going to talk just for a little bit about the project that Councilman McBride was mentioning, and then I'll turn it over to Samantha to talk about the latest on the Angel Oak. This is a proposed county park at Simmons Creek, and you can see there where two tracks that make up this property are located. They're about a mile, I believe, or just under a mile from the nearest city property, which is just to the east down Old Pond Road from here. The top of the properties that you see are where it's kind of squiggly are along Simmons Creek, and the bottom of the properties are along Old Pond Road. It's about 3 miles north of the Angel Oak. It does have deep water access along Simmons Creek, about 2,000 linear feet along that creek. And the County Park and Recreation Commission is in the process of going through Greenbelt approvals to try to obtain funding to bring this into the park system. So two things happened here. Low Country Land Trust. One, we've been working with the community going back to 2017 to ask people, what do you want to see on Johns Island? And one of the big things we heard was, as was mentioned, people feel like they've lost access to the water over the years. Well, this property really was kind of, we had a lot of luck. We had a donor who came along and said, I'd like to give you this property. We actually were not asking them for it. They came and said, we'd like to donate this unrestricted as a way of supporting your organization. They weren't even thinking about the potential outcomes for the property. And we had several choices. It was intended to help endow the work that we do. We could do some of the things that we've done in the past where we protect property with a conservation easement, sell it into private hands. It's protected. Very little development will happen in the future. But we saw the opportunity to turn this into a public amenity on the water. And so we contacted PRC, started working with them, and it's been a couple of years now. They now went in front of the Greenbelt Advisory Board last Wednesday, and there was a recommendation made to County Council to approve their purchase of the property at the restricted value. So we are taking a lot of the development rights out of it ourselves and then selling it to PRC for that reduced value. And at the same time, as this project was happening, a piece of property next door to it, which we call Willow Oak, came up for sale. And we took out a bridge loan. We do not have the funding into the project yet to complete it, but we took out a bridge loan to secure that property so we could add it into the park and make the park have a more diverse set of values that could be offered for future public use. So you can see it's about 3 miles north of Angel Oak at the bottom of the map there. And Samantha, if you'll turn to the next slide. Here's a closer view of it. You can see on that photo to the left, the aerial photo, there's a gray box over the larger Simmons Creek tract, which is about 53 acres. And then the Willow Oak tract is just to the left of that. It's about 13 acres. And you can see one's forested and has a lot of waterfront. The other has open areas and a pond on it. Here are some of the waterfront views, both down at a dock that's on the Simmons Creek property, and then a drone's eye view of the property. Samantha, if you'll turn to the next slide. This is just a sort of a cursory drawing of the property. Now, so this is PRC's just conceptual ideas for the property. You can see trails, you can see a road coming into the property on the left. and that green circle at the waterfront where people could bring in paddlecraft to access the creek. I want to just mention that PRC staff and commission are excited about the opportunity to turn this into a park. This is still pending Greenbelt Charleston County Council final approval of a funding award. And once that happens, their staff will request that their commission approve sometime in October or November, approve to move forward with the acquisition of the property. But you can see the different uses that they're looking to make of the property in that list there. And then you can see that there's a potential for this to connect into what we call a blue trail, which is where you can paddle on our creeks and rivers to get from one point to another. Limehouse boat landing would be the closest, and you can see you can paddle Simmons Creek and then go through a cut and get out onto the Stono River. It's about 0.6 of a mile to get out to the Stono River. And then you could actually go in either direction and connect with different points along a blue trail. And you can go beyond Limehouse to some other points, including the Sea Island Small Farmers Cooperative property, which PRC also now owns, which is slated to have water access there as well in the future. So there'll be a lot of options for paddlers from this property. All right, next slide. Last thing just wanted to point out to you is that this is part of a bigger vision that we have for Johns Island. And the green arrow on this small map at the upper right points to the Simmons Creek tracks. The orange arrows are other projects that we have underway. These are also both in the green tracks that you see there are both in front of the Greenbelt Advisory Board and now County Council as well. One of them, Main Road, runs between those two projects. One of them we call Main Road Park. That is actually a partnership with the Barrier Islands Little League, and we are purchasing that in partnership with them. A portion of the property that's already open fields can serve as ball fields for baseball, for Little League baseball, which is a much needed amenity. And this sort of ties into some of the conversation you were having earlier. The rest of it is going to be a nature preserve. So this is a great win-win for us and for recreational interests on the island. And maybe there's other places where we can make this model work to meet some of the goals that you all have, because it's hard to do conservation on Johns Island. It's expensive. The parcels aren't that big. We need partnerships to make it work. And so that's an example where we're doing that. The other property to the left of that is what we call Grayson Oaks, and it's a farm. And we are looking to acquire that, to keep it in farming and lease it out to a farmer. The other colored tracks that you see on the property, including the long, thin, linear ones, are places where we're either in conversation with landowners or would like to be, to look at making this more of a conservation and recreation corridor. So my main point with that map is just to say that we have a bigger vision than just these properties on Johns Island. And everything we do is voluntary. We work with landowners if they want to work with us. So none of this is a for certain deal, but we are continuing to try to work with people. And as we do this work, we find people coming out of the woodwork and saying, we want to work with you on our tracks that fit in with this bigger vision that you're exercising. So last two slides, I just want to show you some views of these properties back at Simmons Creek. These are views on the creek of the Simmons Creek property. There is a sort of a somewhat ramshackle dock on the property, which would be replaced with a safer dock, but you can see what it looks like on the waterfront there. And then next slide. These are some views of primarily of the Willow Oak track. So you can see the open fields that it has there along Old Pond Road. In the upper left-hand corner, you see the pond that's on the Willow Oak property. The woods behind that are the Simmons Creek tract. And you can see behind that in the upper left-hand corner, Simmons Creek itself. So you kind of get a little bit of sense of what the property is like, but these are beautiful places. And we are so excited to be able to bring this in partnership with PRC, assuming everything works out with our approvals processes, to the citizens, both of the county and to the city residents who will benefit from being nearby. With that, I want to turn it over to Samantha Siegel to talk about the Angel Oak.
Thank you so much, David. And thank you so much for having us today. You all have probably heard a lot about the Angel Oak, so I'll try to keep it brief. But Angel Oak Preserve was established in 2013 to purchase about 35 acres surrounding the Angel Oak that was threatened by a massive development that would have harmed the health of the Angel Oak and the rural character of the land. So that $7 million purchase was funded by the South Carolina Conservation Bank, the city of Charleston, the Charleston County Greenbelt Program, private foundations, but most importantly, over 12,000 individual donations from all over the world. So it really is representative of the power of the tree to bring us together. And this project has really been in the works for almost 15 years now, which is kind of amazing when you think about it. So we've been working closely with Jason, who's on the call, and the city of Charleston to create Angel Oak Preserve. This is a scary image about showing you what could have been on the site. This was the development that was proposed in 2008. As you can see, a lot of pavement and buildings around a very historic oak tree, and it would have filled in over 4 acres of freshwater wetlands that also protect the health of the tree. So this was 2013, the best day of my life so far, when the tree was officially protected. And you can just see we had a great diverse group of citizens, businesses, elected officials working together. We've sort of coined that term, the Angel Oak effect. We all can't agree on everything, but we can all agree on the Angel Oak, which is wonderful. So this just shows the breakdown of the property. The Angel Oak is right here in the city's existing 2.3 acre park. And then the city also owns this 7 acre conservation zone around the park. The land trust owns everything else surrounding that in orange. And I'm not sure if you're going to be able to hear this. I have a quick video clip that I wanted to share with you all. But the Angel Oak, of course, is an ecological marvel just looking at it. But what you might not know is there's a rich cultural history of this site. And we really wanted to work to bring all of those things together to interpret the cultural history, the ecological history, and the potential for the future of community conservation and using this tree as a model. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with civil rights activist Septima Clark, and she was interviewed at the Angel Oak in the early 80s. She was a teacher on Johns Island in the early 1900s. And this is what she said. And if someone could just raise their hand if they can't hear this, so I know that I should stop playing it.
Segregation was at its height, but the tree was not segregated. And so in the springtime, to have some kind of a recreation program for the children, we could take a lunch and go to the Angel Oak tree. And because the spirits were around the tree, and it was a live oak tree, then they considered that the angels brought these spirits there. Because from the early days, I think, the stories that the people told to their children about that tree, it was sacred, and it was sacred to them. And so they respected it. When I took my children over to have picnics and things, they never felt as if they could drop the tree for us. Because that tree, well, very word angel means that it's sacred to them. And so they felt that anything that was like an angel had to be clean and had to be loved and had to be respected.
Gets me every time. So the city.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
I
don't need to share it again. Sorry. All right. So this slide shows the current conditions at the park. And Jason, no disrespect to the city of Charleston, I know you have your hands full out there, but we do have some issues that we need to address. And the most important one is parking. Right now, there's a small handicap parking lot that are right on the roots of the tree. And then people just park along Angel Oak Road, which is also on the roots of the tree. So we started with the idea to create a new safe parking area further away from the tree. And it has evolved into this gigantic, wonderful nature preserve. So the other things that we want to do is interpretation at the tree about that history and culture, permanent bathrooms, which everyone is really excited about, and a nice new welcome center, and some other cool features, which I will share. So right now, all of the activity at the Angel Oak is right here in that small park, and then parked along the road, Angel Oak Road. And so what we would like to see, and believe it or not, just foot traffic on the soil can hurt the roots of the Angel Oak. So our idea was to spread people out on the site. And so this is what we envision the site looking like once the preserve is opened. People all over that 44 acres. We've talked about potential timed entry. We still haven't made a decision on that, but we want to set up the infrastructure to do it if it is needed. I know a lot of locals will not love that, but it is a practice with a lot of museums now, and we just want to give the tree the most healthy environment possible. So everything that we're doing is through the lens of what is best for the Angel Oak. So you would enter the preserve from Bohicket Road, and we would close Angel Oak Road here to vehicular traffic, aside from emergency vehicles and the adjacent property owners that need to get into their driveways. And then you would walk to the Angel Oak through a forested trail. There will be about 2 miles of ADA accessible trails. And then some of the features on the site that I wanted to share are the Welcome Center. There'll be a nature play area, no plastic playground equipment, real nature play. There'll be boardwalks through the wetlands, and then there will be a very special commemorative walkway to honor the site's potential connection to the Underground Railroad, which we are just learning about through oral histories. We're also working on a National Register application. So the history just keeps coming to us. Every time we're getting ready to submit, we find something new. So we're still working on that application. And this is the vision for the future. This is the schematic design plan, which I think I just showed you part of it, but this is the network of trails. And these are some renderings of what we imagine the Welcome Center might look like. These are just initial renderings. Nothing has been permitted or completed yet. But giving a larger area for the gift shop to raise money for operations, 2 small offices, screened-in porch for the basket weavers who were offered an indoor space, but they said they wanted to be on the screen porch with a big fan. And one of my favorite features of the Welcome Center is this map that will be on the ground at the Welcome Center showing the sea islands, and John's Island will be centered in the middle. So you'll get an idea of where you are. And this is not the font that will be used, just so you know. There will be some interpretive panels here, and just some other views. This is what we imagine some of the trails will look like. There will be boardwalks in the wetland areas. This is a rendering of what we imagine the wetland boardwalk would look like. And then my last 2 slides are 2 of my favorite things. The children's play area. So the #1 comment, we got this advice from, I think he was a 6-year-old. He might be 8 now, but he wanted us to create a branch, a synthetic Angel Oak branch that could be climbed. And some of the best ideas come from children. So we are going to create a synthetic branch of the Angel Oak. And in that oral history that I just played for you, there's another part where Septima Clark talks about an old folk story, which we know is not true because scientifically it wouldn't have happened, but we wanted to honor it. And that was that folks used to take ox carts to the tree because that was the main form of transportation back then. And someone had tied their oxen to the fence or to a branch of the tree. The oxen got spooked and he took off. And that was why the branches were all spread out like that. And we loved that story. So we included it here with a little ox cart and oxen for children to climb. So everything here is intentional and there for a reason, which I love. And then there's this little sensory trail that we'll have for children as well, where they can play with sound, music, public art, and have their own little mini nature trail. And then lastly, this would be the outdoor classroom. I love taking groups of students out there, but there's not enough seating, so it'll be great. This is just a amphitheater style seating. It's kind of hard to see on here, but the Angel Oak is here and the amphitheater is sort of in the middle of the site, just outside of the limits of the current city park. And then lastly, I just wanted to say that we are working closely with the city on, I think I saw Melissa on the call too, on an MOU that will outline future operations and maintenance of the preserve. So we haven't gotten there yet, but we are working on that. And I think that was my last slide.
Great.
That is
And
awesome.
Jason, if you have anything to add, please feel free to add.
Yeah.
No, we're excited about the project. So I've been working with the Land Trust since day one, sit on the subcommittee, and it's been a really cool process. The subcommittee is about 12 or 15 members,
Yeah.
Samantha, and
Yeah.
a subcommittee that's been part of the planning exercise is all walks of life across the Sea Islands, and it's been a really good experience.
Thank you. Councilmember Waring.
Well, I want to thank Samantha for committing so much of her life seriously to this project. Your schematic where it shows the overview of the park and where it comes up to Sea Island Comprehensive Health Center.
Uh-huh.
You know, there's 70 or 71 senior citizen apartment complex units being built on that front part on Maybank Highway, as you know. Will it be a way for them to enter the park by foot as opposed to getting in a car and drive all the way around to Bohicket Road to access parking there?
Absolutely. Yes, we are working. We're actually adding what we're calling a healing plant trail, which will lead to Sea Island Healthcare. And so we'll be planting traditional, medicinal, and herbal plants from the Gullah Geechee and indigenous community. So we're even keeping a theme to as you get to the healthcare facility. So we're really excited about the collaboration between that project and this project.
I think it's wonderful because right next door to the apartment complex, as you know, exists a 132-bed nursing home.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those people will be able to, maybe by a wheelchair or whatever, access these trails, which is just open up great quality of life for all of them. But anyway, whatever you can do, you got about your allies on this side. Thank you for your work that you do on this one, in particular, Samantha, and you too, Mr. Ray. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you both. So many positive things coming. Councilmember McBride.
And you guys have thought of everything. A healing trail from those, and then the synthetic branch for the kids to climb on. That's awesome. What is the general in your minds, the realistic timeline? I guess I'm talking to both West and Jason and everybody.
That's a great question. Our ambitious timeline would be, I need to think of another term for breaking ground because it doesn't seem appropriate here, but it would be a groundbreaking in the fall of 2025, and then construction would take about a year. But that's all tied up in the permitting process, and we're also going to do a big roundtable meeting November 7th to get more community feedback, because we just want to make sure that we're hearing from everyone. So we might be going a little overkill with the community feedback, but I don't think you can be too careful when it's such an important property.
And There's a good article about this whole project in the Post and Courier that just came out. I think it mentioned the city council is going to vote on something related to this soon.
Yes, the rezoning, which yes, is very exciting. Although the property was already protected before it was rezoned, but it's still exciting. So it's an extra layer of protection. It was still zoned as a planned unit development from that 2008 development. But it was very exciting for us to, to take these steps and give it the conservation zoning that it deserves.
Mr. Mayor, do we know any idea when that's going to come up to city council?
I don't, but we could find out, and I would again echo all the comments. This is really exciting, and appreciate all that Low Country Open Land Trust has done here. It's a great partnership and really, really exciting initiative on both things that y'all are working on. So thank you for all you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Councilmember Waring?
Just from I know nobody's interested in this, but from a funding standpoint, are we keeping up with how many tourists comes to the tree now, and maybe projection on what ecotourism will be once built? I think that's pretty good to be able to provide that to council, because obviously tourism dollars will be involved.
Yes, they do a great job counting at the park right now, and the numbers are about 400,000 people a year right now without any improvements, which is remarkable.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a huge number. So we're definitely, we're working on a full business plan so we can project exactly, how many visitors and all of the facility needs and everything. But we're definitely planning for a lot of people in the future. And that wasn't the goal to bring more people, but we do understand that it will bring more people regardless if we want it to or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're already coming. So
exactly.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, just I hate to cut this short, but I just wanted to let you know, Mr. Chairman, that several of us I think have to jump at 5 or 3 for a real estate committee. So if there's any way to go on some of these other issues to get them, if you need a quorum, I just wanted to point that out. We're gonna have to drop soon.
Okay, sure. Well, thank you so much. And again, I mean, everyone's really excited about this. I mean, when we first spoke a long time ago, this is really exciting. So thank you so much for your partnership, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
All right. Thank you
Likewise.
so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. I think we need to approve the municipal golf course restroom contract. Who
I
wants?
move for approval.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? What is the timeline for this? So the RFP went out, the vendor was selected, and then what's the next step?
I think they're ready to go, Jason, right?
Yeah, this is the contract for construction. So as soon as the contract gets signed, we put it up for public bid. Then we will coordinate with a notice to proceed and schedule everything accordingly. So as you all may remember, we've already purchased the boxes, the actual prefab modular units. So they are waiting. All we have to do is get the contractor mobilized, run the utilities, and then set the units in place. So we'll have a schedule as soon as we issue that notice to proceed.
Okay, thank you. And since this meeting won't report out until November, is this on our agenda for tomorrow to approve so we don't hold it up?
It is.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Thank you. All right. We had a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The ayes have it. All right. Muni's getting bathrooms. All right. Item D, approval of a resolution adopting the following special event policies. Ms. Crothers, do you want to take that?
It's actually going to be Miss Creech.
Ms. Creech. Okay, sorry.
Well, I thought this was actually going to be coming from Dan, but that's quite all right.
No, we're good.
We're
Okay,
good.
You got it then? Okay.
Yep. Amy, go ahead and do your thing.
Sure. We have a few policies proposed just to help us in reviewing the high volume of special events that are requested throughout the city each year. So the first one is basically creating a blackout date policy. And in this policy, we have highlighted some of those events that have a high that require a high volume of city support, police presence, that type of thing. So we are not saying we will not approve any other events during this time, but it would be unlikely that we would be able to approve an additional medium or major size event on the same day as these. Are there any questions about that particular one? If not, we can move to the next one quickly. Good.
I don't see any hands. Go ahead.
Okay, so then the next one is related to parades and just policies that will provide additional safety items, such as not throwing things from moving vehicles towards the crowd, such as candy. If they want to do that, they would hand it to them. Other bullet points include not sitting on the top of a car. Really, it's targeting just safety of the parade participants.
Okay.
And if there are no questions about that, we can move on to the last one quickly.
Sure.
Okay, and then the last one is just setting a priority. So we are flooded with requests each year that we cannot accommodate. So we wanted to just establish what we should consider first if we get requests for similar dates and times. The first being something that's city sponsored or promoted. Those are, really targeting our residents, our citizens. The next would be things that are more community-based or neighborhood-based. After that are nonprofit fundraising type events. And then finally, the private or for-profit events. Any questions about that?
No. I just one quick question. Is there a reason that, so you're just feeling it's just overwhelming with how many sort of permit requests are coming in, and this is just a proper way to sort of, organize everything?
Yes. And of course, focusing on events that have a great history with the city, like the Bridge Run. We would not want something to take priority over that. That's something that's been with the city a long time. People depend on it coming.
Great. Any questions, anyone? I don't see any.
Just a quick question. I noticed that you didn't have Juneteenth on there. Should that be a blackout day? And it's a new holiday, but there have been things in the last couple of years on that day.
Sure, we can review that before we take it to council. I think it likely is just that it did not have as much of a demand on city resources as some of the others.
Okay.
And that's one we usually accommodate. Like Mamie said, these are larger, more impactful events that, again, require a lot of resources.
Again, by impactful, you mean impactful on right now on city services. And to Councilman Gregory's point, Juneteenth being a new holiday, it could expand. And I think it's a good point that we could add that potentially as an amendment to council. I don't think you meant that it wouldn't be impactful. Just for clarity.
Sorry.
then lastly, we've been having these discussions with the Citadel and their 14 events. If those come in during any of these blackout dates, how would we have to treat them?
So again, we are not saying that we would absolutely deny them, but we would have to consider those existing events and the resources that are being pulled for those. With the Citadel specifically, it does require a lot of police for the street closures and that type of thing. But on the inside of the stadium, those those resources are typically handled by security with the Citadel. So we would just have to weigh what they're asking for and what the, if it's possible to accommodate them.
Great answer. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move that we take items D, E, and F together.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All
And
right.
Madam
now-
Chair, I'd move for approval. Yeah.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The ayes have it. I believe that's it. And I know if you have to run, Mayor, go ahead. But I just wanted to say, or does anyone else have anything to come before the committee? Okay, I just wanted to say a big thank you. We had the Q4 cleanup over at Stephen Washington Park last Saturday. It was incredible. I mean, their administration, city staff, we had environmental services, parks department. I mean, everybody was there. Deputy Chief Thompson, I mean, police department, fire. There were so many people there. And this is a labor intense park cleanup. So I just want to thank everyone. I promise you, I mean, that community is so grateful to have seen us out there as a city. I mean, it's incredibly impactful. Councilmember Waring, you and I talk about this all the time. These parks, these locales in these neighborhoods are extremely, extremely impactful to our citizens. And I think that every time we can improve and do anything, it's a huge benefit for everybody. They love seeing it. So thank you, everyone.
Okay.
All right, but that is it. I will see everyone tomorrow. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.